And a very pleasant good afternoon to everybody. My name is Biff Kensington, and you are tuned in to the Queen City Express podcast for Thursday, May the 10th, 2018. We got our special guest here, of course. He is the co-host of the Queen City Express and a friend to you and me, Mr. Ryan Saya. Ryan, how you doing today, buddy?
I feel like I haven't slept in about 6 months, but other than that, I'm doing all right.
You need another vacation. You got to go back to New Orleans at some point.
If only it was that easy.
Yeah, a little bit expensive. I wish we were back in New Orleans because, wow, you talk about a disappointing couple of weeks for WWE. It's been tire fire, bud. It's been an unmitigated disaster creatively, and
Well,
one of the
um,
worst shows of 2018 and one of the worst shows in a long time just dropped Sunday, and we're gonna unfortunately have to wade through the cesspit that is Backlash today.
all right, here we go. Backlash. It was god awful. That's all we got time for today. I'll see all y'all next week.
It's the Queen City Express quickie here. We will be talking about Backlash. Uh, at this point, it's been beaten to death. There's not a lot that we could add to it. Everybody understands the general basic gist of the show. It sucked. The opener was great. Seth Rollins continues to be one of the only reasons to watch WWE programming right now from a creative standpoint. There's a lot wrong with WWE. And I know some people may find that an unfair comment, an over exaggeration or generalization of what's going on. But you know what? We're going to talk a little bit today about some of the problems with creative in WWE and why I don't think it's really that far out of touch with the reality of the situation right now. So just be prepared for a little bit of a vent session. Of course, we'll add some humor in it so you're not listening to two guys just bitch back and forth. But it's really frustrating right now as a fan to kind of sit through and see the waste that's going on. This isn't a situation like 1990 WWF where the roster isn't at its strongest, and so you can almost forgive how bad some of the booking decisions were. It doesn't completely justify 95 WWF. I don't think anybody was excited for King Mabel, but it's not that WWE
How
doesn't have the
dare
resources
you?
or the ability. I hear you back there.
How dare you talk down about our one true savior, King Mabel?
Well, you're on your way to hell, so enjoy the ride down. It's not a matter of, I'm not even dignifying that with a discussion. It's not a matter of WWE not having the resources or the roster. They have the best roster money can buy, the deepest talent pool between the main roster and NXT, but there's just so much waste. And despite having some great workers who can put on good matches, we had good matches again this week on TV. It's just the stories are just so bad right now. There's just very little redeeming quality about the creative direction on these shows. And we're going to talk a little bit about it here after we get through our Backlash recap. But first, got to throw out some plugs and a very big thank you before we get too far into the negativity this week. As you know, I've been co-hosting a brand new wrestling podcast called The Connoisseurs of Wrestling with the godfather of podcasting at Cage-Side Seats, the indomitable Taker's Minion. I just want to thank everybody who's made that show a smashing success. We shattered our daily views for the episode this week with the AWA coverage. We're just trouncing the Queen City Express in views on that one. And it's beasting out on Shooting the Breeze, too. So, it's just a tremendously gratifying experience to see so many people enjoying the show and talking about it. I know Taker and Minion and I are very appreciative of everyone that's given it a listen. Just thank you. Thank you very much from the bottom of my heart for making that show so special so early on in its run. We'll be back this coming week. We got a very special episode. I can't spoil it just yet, but trust me, you'll want to be tuned in live Sunday night as we go live for our next live stream. Other plugs, of course, Shooting the Breeze, the best wrestling podcast out there for my money. Saturday mornings, drops every week, 11 a.m. Eastern. My co-host with the Connoisseurs of Wrestling, Taker's Minion, and Doc Sinju have you covered there with special guests. Of course, all the Cage Side Seats affiliated podcasts. I know my good buddy Metal Matt has his Ruthless Aggression podcast. Dennis Cowie probably has 5 more podcasts in development. So, Dennis, whenever you get that settled, bud, let me know and I'll get you a formal plug. All the great shows. The Violent Wrestling Podcast came back. I'm so excited. It's always great to have that show back on. Some shows are on hiatus, some are in development. Fizzy's got some more shows coming soon here, I hope. So, just keep it tuned into Cage Side Seats and definitely check out the daily nightly threads there. A lot of good wrestling content, a lot of fun discussions. All right. So we got the good stuff out of the way. Now let's get to Backlash and get into the dumpster fire proper. This show sucked. There's no two bones about it. Seth Rollins and The Miz opened the show for the Intercontinental title, and the show peaked right here. Now, I will give Seth Rollins all the credit in the world. He's been one of the best parts of WWE programming all year. And this run with The Miz has been, understated in terms of the story itself, but the matches have been fantastic. He follows up the WrestleMania 34 performance in the Triple Threat with Finn Balor and The Miz here. He follows the Greatest Royal Rumble performance in the ladder match with Miz, Finn Balor, and Samoa Joe. He has another instant classic with The Miz here at Backlash. He retains the Intercontinental title. Long match, 20 minutes on the stopwatch, give or take a few seconds. Brian, I mean, what can you say? The guy's on fire right now. He's one of the best workers in the world.
Yeah, he's had a really good string of matches here lately, and I think it's going to continue. Seth Rollins has always been one of their better hands they have. Miz is by no means a slouch either in that department. He gets a lot of crap, but he's one of their better wrestlers, I feel like, or at least one of their better entertainers. I could put it that way instead. But it was a good match all around. A few things I can nitpick here and there, but not really worth it. It was definitely the best match of the card, and that's not hard to accomplish with this show, but it was solid.
Yeah, I think the nitpicking aspect, and I get where you're coming from on that. There were a few things that bothered me about the match too, but they were so insignificant compared to the rest of the show that you can almost forgive it retroactively. In the moment, you're like, I wish they would have done a few things different, but I mean, overall, it was a great match, long match. Intercontinental title hasn't been this relevant in a long time, and that's no disrespect to The Miz, who more than held his own. I don't think Miz gets nearly enough credit. Too many people crap on that guy, and he doesn't deserve nearly the amount of hate for his in-ring work. Everybody knows he can talk, but he's actually become a very decent wrestler on his own. But Seth Rollins is having quite the year. I don't know that I could put him above Johnny Gargano from NXT in terms of having the best year overall in WWE qualitatively. Johnny had the 2 takeover matches with Almas and Ciampa that were just all-timers. And then he's had a great TV match with Almas to boot. So, if you're looking just strictly at the highest of the highs, Johnny Gargano is probably the best wrestler in the WWE system this year so far. Seth Rollins is right there, right behind him. He had a great performance in the gauntlet match leading up to Elimination Chamber. Really opened a lot of eyes, got a lot of people behind him, and I think that kind of set the table for the Intercontinental title run that he's enjoying right now. Of course, he had one of the best matches at WrestleMania, opening up the show with The Miz and Finn Balor. Had the best match at the Greatest Royal Rumble in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, for my money, in the ladder match. And then here again, he has the best match on the card with The Miz. So, when you couple what he's done on TV, having some incredible Intercontinental title defenses against Finn Balor and even lower level guys like Mojo Rawley. Had a great match with Mojo this week. Was pretty impressed. He's just on fire. He's firing on all cylinders. And it really begs the question, why is this guy not getting more consideration for a run on top? I just don't understand. He's got all the tools you want. He can talk. He's got a character that people enjoy, that like. He's got a great storyline going right now with this, quintessential redemption arc. He's trying to be a fighting champion and learn from the mistakes that he made in 2014 and 2015. He's a great in-ring worker, and people buy him as a top-tier guy. So I don't understand why he's kind of saddled in the Intercontinental title picture right now.
I can tell you why. His name is not Brock Lesnar or Roman Reigns.
But okay, all right, soapbox. Why? I'm just saying, what does Roman Reigns offer that Seth Rollins doesn't?
He helps people beat the traffic, apparently. He doesn't offer a whole lot of anything. Honestly, he doesn't, but we're at this point again to where you're going to get this person and you're going to like it, or it's too damn bad you're not going to watch. And that's what it is. It's the Roman Reigns show.
Let's break this down. Let's break this down. All right. And I'm not talking the sarcastic, Seth Rollins doesn't have a bulletproof vest, okay, or a flak jacket on. I'm not going to go the sarcastic route. Let's play it serious here for a second. What does Seth Rollins not have in comparison to Roman Reigns? What does Reigns have that Seth doesn't? Let's break this down here. Is Roman Reigns a good in-ring worker? I would say yeah. Now, he's had a really bad 2018.
He's a solid B plus wrestler. This year, B minus. But
he's not had a good year in 2018.
No.
He had a very poor showing in the Elimination Chamber. Braun Strowman overshadowed everybody in that match. I don't really feel comfortable grading a Rumble match because, it's a Rumble. And that's a lot of people working together to make that match happen.
He strikes me as a poor man's Randy Orton. He can have a good match. He does at times have fans care about him, and other times fans hate him. But more often than not, it just seems like he goes through the motions. And that's what he's been doing this year, it feels like. He's just kind of doing the same thing.
That is the best possible way to put it. He's going through the motions.
They want him to be the top guy, and the fans aren't buying it, but he's just kind of going through it. It's tiring.
I think that's what the problem is. I honestly think he's defeated. This is not only my personal opinion. We were talking about this all week at Cage Side Seats. It feels like he's defeated. And that might be why the quality of his matches have gone downhill so much. Now, he's always had a bit of a struggle at WrestleMania. Outside of the first Brock Lesnar match, his reputation at WrestleMania has not been the greatest. WrestleMania 29's match, the Shield match against Sheamus and, I think it was Randy Orton and Big Show off the top of my head. I can't remember for sure. That match was it was just there. WrestleMania 30 was pretty much a squash, so it was in and out real quick. It was fun, but it was still a squash. WrestleMania 31, he had a good match with Brock Lesnar, but after that, it goes downhill fast. He tanked at WrestleMania 32 with Triple H in a boring match. WrestleMania 33 was just bad overall, a lot of botches. Undertaker and his physical condition didn't help matters there. But he had another craptacular match that nobody cared about at WrestleMania 34. And, you can say, well, maybe it's who he's wrestling with, but it takes two to tango. And a true main event star can overcome those limitations. You see guys like Steve Austin or Ric Flair, they had some great matches on top with people that were not on their level, but their sheer force of personality, their personal magnetism, and their in-ring ability just overcomes that. AJ Styles would be another example on a much smaller scale. Wrestling those return matches with Jinder Mahal gave Jinder his best matches ever. And Jinder, no disrespect to him, he's not in AJ's league.
Speaking of, maybe this is the long con to get us to cheer Jinder since now he's pushed for that big babyface push.
If they wrestle in Chicago, that's going to be an ugly match. That crowd is going to be venomous.
No, what would you do if it's the main event?
I would laugh my ass off.
There'd be a lot of people really beating the traffic then.
You know what? From a purely cynical, destructive asshole perspective, I would love to see that match main event. But realistically, it shouldn't. No, I'm not saying it won't because WWE is going to WWE, but Let's just be real here, okay?
But
The Roman, but
here's what I'm going to say about Roman. We've said a lot of stuff about him the past couple weeks. I'm tired of him. I know a lot of people are tired of him. It's basically the super John Cena run. This is the person they want to have up there. They've made their mind up. They want him to be the guy. They're going to make him the guy whether we like it or not. Even though we don't like it, we're still here talking about it. So, end of the day, am I happy about it? No. Is it going to keep me from watching? I might turn it off when his match is on. I turn it back when it's over. That's the beauty of the way we can watch the media nowadays. But
well, here's the difference between John Cena and Roman Reigns. John Cena had organic fan support that pushed him to the top. John Cena was almost universally cheered and cheered loudly during his run up to the WWE Championship at WrestleMania 21. He earned that through, the organic support of the crowd. It wasn't necessarily a situation where he was handpicked like Roman Reigns. And again, this is no disrespect to Roman Reigns, but there's a difference between the crowd choosing you and the company choosing you. The crowds never really chose Roman on the same level that they chose John Cena. This was always a company decision to make him into a top guy. Sometimes that logic works, but it kind of is a comparison between a John Cena and a Randy Orton. Randy Orton, he was more sabotaged by bad booking in 2004. That's what really killed him, but the company made him into a top guy. He was never on the same level of a John Cena. And so, you look at Roman Reigns, he was never organically over on the same level, and the crowds just didn't buy him in that role by and large. Now, he has his fans, he has his supporters, and their opinion is just as valid as anyone else's. But we're getting to a point now where Roman Reigns, it's not just WrestleMania where he's having bad matches. He didn't have a good showing at Elimination Chamber. He didn't have a good showing at WrestleMania at all. It was one of the worst Mania main events in a long time. He didn't have a good showing in Saudi Arabia. And he had another bad showing here again at Backlash. He's on a really bad run here. And the promos that he's cutting on TV are not helping his matter any. Meanwhile, you've got Seth Rollins here who's checking off a lot of the same boxes. Seth Rollins has a good look, athletic, handsome. He can cut a better promo than Roman, for my money. He's definitely a better in-ring worker, and he's definitely more popular with more people. Seth Rollins, Braun Strowman are probably the two hottest baby faces on Raw, and maybe two of the top 3 or 4 in the entire company right now. So, just to kind of draw it back on track, you've got Seth Rollins wrestling out of his mind right now. And he's having, 4-star matches or better with scrubs like Mojo Rawley. Meanwhile, Roman Reigns is sleepwalking through main event after main event looking like he's just been defeated. It's not all on Roman Reigns. I mean, I don't even blame Roman for most of it. Roman Reigns is a victim of WWE sucking at their job. Their job is to make Roman Reigns into the top babyface. They made him a main eventer. He's a big deal. But he is not a top babyface. And, I hate the argument, well, it doesn't matter if he's a top babyface, he gets loud reactions. That is so asinine and backwards. You don't ride without a guy that fans want to get behind. You need a strong top babyface. Whether it's the anti-establishment Steve Austin from the Attitude Era, whether it's John Cena from 05 to 07, whether it's Hulk Hogan from 84 to 92. A baby face that most people want to cheer makes the product so much better. When you don't have a strong baby face on top of your company, your promotion goes into the tank. They didn't really have that strong lead babyface between 02 and 04, and that was some of the worst programming WWE has put on in a long time. Diesel was not the guy in 95, and it was one of the worst years they had. Shawn Michaels, Vince took everything cool away from him that made him popular in the first place. 1996 was one of their worst years ever. Okay, and we're not talking about in-ring quality. We're just talking about storylines, character-driven work. Shawn Michaels had to turn heel in '97 with the DX run, or else he would have had the same type of backlash, I think, that we're seeing now with Roman Reigns, and we saw with John Cena after a while. You know, I hate this. It's so backwards. It's so incorrect. It's not just a matter of getting any reaction. You've got to get someone that the crowd wants to see succeed. And most people, probably have no personal problem with Roman Reigns. It's not a matter of them hating the guy. They just don't want him in this role. And it's not, to discount the people that consider themselves fan of his. They have a valid opinion to support Reigns, but that doesn't diminish the opinion of people that don't support Reigns. And right now, the people that don't support Reigns sound like they're outnumbering the people that do. You get a situation on Sunday when people start leaving during the main event. No, it wasn't the entire arena, but it was enough to be noticeable. As soon as the bell rang and they cut to the crowd, people are instantly getting up out of their seats. There's no celebrating. There's no, happiness. Oh, Roman Reigns won. No, it's let's get the hell out of this arena because we're tired. We want to go home. People chanting beat the traffic. We're not talking about smart cities. Yeah, Canada's always been a little bit different, but Montreal, that was just pure venom 2 weeks ago to Roman Reigns. And Long Island has never been a particularly good crowd, but they just shit all over that main event. We're talking about all sorts of towns now that are just rejecting this guy straight up. Enough is enough. When are we going to stop this charade? I mean, you've got another option. You've got Seth Rollins right freaking there. You've got Braun Strowman if you don't want to go with Seth. I don't think Finn Balor is going to work on top, but hell, he's more popular than Roman Reigns with more people. And if you're going for the kids demographic, paint him up as the demon. If you're going for the women, let him show his abs out there. You've got other options. I just don't get it. I don't understand why they're riding this train into the ground. They're killing Roman Reigns as a character. And they're making it so that even a heel turn at this point may not save him. And he could be so much more than he is. I don't get it. It burns me up because I'm a fan of his. Ryan, you take over, buddy. I need to breathe a little bit.
I mean, you said everything you need to say. There ain't nothing good about it, but it's just what they're gonna do. There ain't nothing we can do about it. We can quit watching. That's about it. But guarantee you come back a year from now, it's gonna be the same thing. Anyways, so Seth Rollins and Miz, great match.
Seth Rollins is the MVP of Raw right now, and he might be the MVP of the company. And again, I don't want to make it out like everything in WWE is bad because it's not. There's a lot of great in-ring work going on right now in WWE.
Well, before you get too far ahead, Nia Jax versus Alexa Bliss.
This match was about 10 minutes too long.
Yep, about 10 minutes too long and fairly unnecessary, to be honest with you.
Yeah, Nia did not look good here.
Nope.
And it might be a combination of Alexa Bliss not being the right opponent for her, not being very realistic. I don't know. Nia got booed after her match a little bit when she gave the Be a Star promo. This match, we're just going to move straight along because quite frankly, just kind of checked out of this match. And I ain't got much to say about the U.S. title match either. Jeff Hardy, Randy Orton, it was a SmackDown match. I got to be completely honest. I kind of tuned out a little bit.
Should have been on Tuesday night, basically.
I don't know. Jeff Hardy and Randy Orton, I don't care anymore about either guy. They've been. It's not like, the years away from WWE freshens Jeff Hardy up for a long period of time. I've seen this act since 1999 in some capacity. Randy Orton, I've been watching this guy do his thing since 2003. It's just, I've seen everything they have to offer, and if you've seen one of their matches, you've seen all their matches. This was nothing special. It was there. It wasn't offensive. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't particularly inspired either. So, I mean, do you have any thoughts on the U.S. title match, or were you pretty much checked out too?
This is about where I checked out for the most part. I mean, I got an understanding of what happened all around, but let's just say if anyone listening thinks that we're really kind of apathetic toward the show right now, it's about to get a lot worse.
It sounds like we're apathetic because we are apathetic. Let's not mince words here. Daniel Bryan and Big Cass. No, I don't even care. It was okay. It wasn't nothing special. Big Cass was getting too cocky. Bryan caught him in the submission. He tapped him out, and that was the right decision. You don't want Bryan losing to Big freaking Cass. Big Cass, I've said it at Cage Side Seats. If you close your eyes and listen to him, he sounds okay. If you look at him while he's cutting a promo, it looks like he's about to shit his pants. He looks like he's got tremendous stage fright when he goes to cut a promo. And so he needs to work on his facial expressions or something. I mean, he's not any great shakes in the ring, but being that big, you don't really have to be, I guess. Again, just a running string of matches that were just there. I don't care. Daniel Bryan picks up the win. Yay. Daniel Bryan, we keep waiting for this feud with The Miz to kick off. I guess they're waiting towards SummerSlam because God knows creative can't book a long-term story anymore. It is what it is. We'll just move right along. And speaking of it is what it is, Carmella defeating Charlotte Flair to retain the Women's Championship. I don't have a
kick to the leg.
I don't have a problem with Carmella winning.
I have a problem with how it happened.
I don't understand why they did it the way they did it. I mean, I guess they wanted Carmella to be a credible champion, but that defeats the entire purpose of the character. The character stole the title with the Money in the Bank briefcase. She's not supposed to be a credible champion. And she just beat Charlotte straight up. This does more to hurt Charlotte than it does to help Carmella.
It was a very weird booking decision with how they finished this match. Maybe it's their agent needs to be fired, but you could tell that Charlotte was hurt and that she hurt her leg, and she kicked her in the leg and she went to pin her. Like, don't pin her, like put her in a leg locker. Have the ref wave off the match and say she's injured. Don't have it like a pinfall victory because she got kicked in the back of the leg. Sorry, it just ugh.
The women's division on SmackDown has a lot of talent, but I don't like the direction they're going with it right now.
There's a lot of talent on both women's divisions, but honestly, they seem hell-bent on pushing the wrong people to the top of the cards, respectively. Yeah, I don't. Whatever.
Well, I don't have a problem with Carmella holding the title.
I don't either.
It's not a matter of not liking Carmella. It's just the way they're going about it. Now on Raw is almost hamstrung by circumstances.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what the hell they're doing with Sasha and Bayley. I don't know what they're doing
they
there.
They don't either.
Yeah, it's probably true. But Sasha and Bayley, don't know what's going on there. Ronda Rousey is not there every week, and they're kind of waiting on her to kick off some storylines there. Nia Jax, I don't have a problem with Nia Jax holding the title, but they really need to tone down this be a star crap. I mean, Nia Jax got over in the first place by being the Braun Strowman of the women's division. I hate the booking storyline. I hate it.
Do you think there's too much emphasis around the women's titles in those divisions? Is that what's hurting it? It's because it's putting two people. You got Nia Jax on Raw and Carmella on SmackDown. Like, your focal points have turned to them, and they're not the best in-ring performers. So it leaves a lot to be desired. Now on Raw, you got the little bit of Bailey, Sasha. What the hell are they going to do? Kind of going underneath, but there's not enough there to really warrant fan interest, and that's why nobody gives a crap. And on SmackDown, you got the stuff with Becky Lynch and the Iconics, but again, that's kind of still rolled into the title picture, so it's still kind of just nothing. And then you got a whole lot of nothing else below it. You get the random, here's Mandy Rose, she's got a new entrance, and maybe Ruby Riot's poking her head in here and there, but it's all still very much title related. In her case, it's just give me something other than the title that they're fighting over.
It's the same problem that they have with the tag division. They have a lot of talent, but they have no idea how to use it.
Build some feuds. Build some feuds that aren't revolving around the belt. Get me something to be interested in these people, because right now you've got the most talent in the women's division you've had in years, if maybe at all time. You got your Becky, Bailey, Sasha, Asuka, Ruby Riot's great, Ember Moon's good, and they're all just floundering doing nothing. Now you got the women's Money in the Bank coming up, and they could be trying to change some stuff there, but again, Money in the Bank still is a title adjacent storyline. Give me something that these people are working toward to give me an interest.
Here's the major issue with both shows. If I could break this down, the problem with Raw is that the women that are on top are not as good qualitatively as some of the people that they're ahead of. In other words, Nia Jax, who I like, Alexa Bliss, who I also like, they are on top of the division, while people like Bailey, and Sasha, who pretty much could eat either women's lunch in the ring, they're floundering. I think Mickie James is better than Alexa Bliss.
I agree,
but I grant you, Mickey's she's older. She's kind of in the gatekeeper role.
I think Alexa and Nia both were not quite ready to come up, honestly.
No, they weren't.
They needed more time. Nia needs more time on the mic, and she needs more time in the ring. She gets sloppy.
Yeah, they were both green. Yeah. There's no doubt about it. They weren't ready.
Alexa looks like she's afraid to get hit half the time.
Well, so. Mandy, that's part of the character too, I think. Alexa's better than a lot of people give her credit for, but she's not on the same level of a Sasha Banks.
Alexa would have been great in like the mid 2000s. She would have fit right in with the kind of performers they had back then.
Like kind of the Eve Torres, Candice Michelle type.
Yeah, but now not as much. She's like kind of a throwback to a time that nobody really wants a throwback to.
I'm going to disagree with you partially, because while she's not great in ring, she at least is competent.
She's a great performer, not so much a wrestler.
Well, she's a good worker in a sense that she's got a good character and she knows how to convey herself in the ring well enough. There is a big gap between, the fashion models that they used to throw out in the ring, like Rosa Mendez.
Yeah.
What am I thinking of? Rosa Mendez? Is that her
Probably.
name?
Yeah.
Hell, I've blacked that whole area out. But the fashion model era of the mid-2000s, they didn't know what the hell they were doing. They were told to go out there because they were picked out of a catalog by John Laurinaitis. And they tried their best. God bless them. They tried. But, Alexa Bliss, she is a wrestler. She's not as good a wrestler as a Sasha Banks or a Charlotte or an Asuka, certainly, or even a Ruby Riott. Okay, but Alexa is at least competent in the ring, and she deserves to be there. I just don't know that she deserves to be at her station. Now, as a heel, brilliant. She's got a great character, and she's got great mic abilities. I love her, ability on the microphone. Okay, I'm just not as sold on her in the ring, especially not at a top level. Nia Jax, she's got talent and she's got potential, but they're doing the same thing they did with Roman Reigns, the same thing they always do. They're taking away what made her special, and they're making her into something that people don't want to see. Let Nia be the juggernaut of the women's division on Raw. You don't have to worry about Asuka being there anymore. Nia Jax can be the juggernaut that just steamrolls people.
They could have made her the woman's version of Braun Strowman.
Yeah, well,
Comes
that's what
in,
she was.
she comes in, just beats ass every week in and week out. Now, granted, I know they wanted to turn her face for the feud with Bliss, but that feud should have ended at WrestleMania. That was the perfect ending to that story. They didn't need to drag it out to Backlash. It could have ended at WrestleMania and everybody would have been fine. But they had to get a little bit more in, get a little bit more runtime, build up a little bit more just so we can keep it stretching to the point that nobody cares anymore.
And here's the problem with stretching it out like that.
It killed both of them, honestly. Nobody cares about either of them now. People were extremely high off of Nia Jax after WrestleMania. People liked what she was doing, and now nobody cares about her again.
Well, here's the deal. You've got Nia Jax, who is, no great shakes on the microphone, having to go, one-on-one with Alexa Bliss, who is a very good talker. And it's the rule of thumb in WWE. If you are a good talker, you're going to look better than your opponent. Because the art of giving a really good interview or cutting a really good promo, it's almost a lost art in WWE. I wouldn't rate anyone, exceptionally well in terms of all-time great promos right now. That just doesn't exist. I mean, Kevin Owens, he has flashes where he could be really good. Elias, he's borderline really good, getting on, very good. But in terms of like historical, all-time great, mic work, I don't think anybody on the roster that really qualifies on that level. And so it's almost like, an oasis in the desert. Anyone that is semi-competent on the microphone is going to, get noticed and is going to entertain people and get some support behind them. I take that back. The Miz is very good.
Yeah,
the Miz is probably the exception to the rule here. But you understand that what I'm trying to say is like microphone work is not the strong suit of this particular roster, and the creative doesn't help them with the scripted garbage.
I don't know if it's necessarily the roster's fault. I think it's just what they're being given. In the case of most people, there's some people that probably couldn't talk their way out of a paper bag, but
yeah. But the entire point here, Alexa is better on the microphone than Nia, and when you're stretching out this feud, you're working off, the promos, and Alexa is outclassing Nia in the promos, and so you've already started to hear some of the backlash begin. Nia got booed at Backlash. They changed her character and they're forcing her to cut promos against someone who's much better at it than she is. Yeah, people are going to turn on her. And it's, a different problem with SmackDown, but it comes back to creative mismanagement. Here again, look at the problem on SmackDown. Look at the babyface roster. Just the in-ring quality. Now, Becky Lynch has been treated like a scrub, but everybody knows that she's a good in-ring worker. But you've got Charlotte Flair, considered the spiritual leader of the Four Horsewomen, the best of the best from NXT. You've got Asuka, who was a freaking tank for years, one of the best women's wrestlers in all the world. And Naomi, won the Battle Royal, former women's champion. She's considered a very good worker. I don't particularly care for her, but that's how she's portrayed. Now look on the heel side.
Sorry, I had to jump in for a second. At least the women's battle royal is keeping in line with the Andre the Giant Battle Memorial Royal Rumble, since neither of them meant anything.
You want to try that again, there, pal?
Nope, I do not. Let's move forward.
The heel side on SmackDown is Carmella. It is the Iconics, and then Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose. And Sonya and Mandy are just getting established. They're not even really fully there yet. You got the Iconics, who themselves are still new, but at least they've kind of carved out a role for them, and Carmella. You notice a problem here. Carmella and the Iconics are essentially the same character, annoying brats. Now, Peyton Royce is a pretty good in-ring worker for my money. She's probably the best of the three between Carmella and her partner, Billie Kay. But at the same time, the three basic characters are very similar. and they're all kind of treated as being inferior to the babyface side. You have no strong heel in-ring worker that can stand toe-to-toe with a Charlotte or an Asuka and be credible. That's really what the problem was here on Sunday with Carmella and Charlotte Flair. It's just not credible for Carmella to beat Charlotte Flair. You know, you can't just... Wrestling doesn't happen in a vacuum. Okay? It's not... You can't just choose people and say, okay, today they're going to be better than wrestler A. They did that with Jinder. One week he's enhancement talent jobbing to Mojo Rawley. The next week he's becoming a number one contender for the WWE title. It doesn't work like that. It's no freaking wonder Jinder Mahal failed as WWE champion. I don't think he would have succeeded anyway because he's just not that good. But who the hell knows? Maybe Jinder Mahal, if they had actually put more than 2 seconds worth of effort into him, maybe they could have made him into a main event guy. But it was going to take a long time to undo the damage, the stink, getting the stink off of him of the enhancement talent label. You can't be a job guy one week and a WWE champion the next and expect people to buy it. It does not freaking work. And here they go again with Carmella beating Charlotte Flair like she did. You're trying to say one story. You're trying to tell a story with the Carmella character. And then you completely circumvent it with the... Oh, God, I don't care anymore. I don't care. I just don't care. I don't care about the women's title on Raw or SmackDown. I don't care about the U.S. title on SmackDown. I don't care about the tag team titles on either show. I care about the Intercontinental title, but that's only because Seth Rollins has got it. Okay? I just don't give a damn.
So, AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura?
Good match up until the last 5-6 minutes of it.
Well, you didn't like the match ending with a trip to Double Dick Kick City? I'll take your silence as I'm just saying, there was a lot of effort and a lot of coordination to get that done right.
Look, I'm a fan of Shinsuke Nakamura. I'm a fan of AJ Styles. AJ is probably my second favorite wrestler in the world right now behind Kenny Omega. Although Johnny Gargano and Seth Rollins are gaining on him rapidly. I love Shinsuke Nakamura's heel work, the promos, the, just being a complete dickhead. And I use that intentionally with all the dick punches and dick kicks. Okay. I love Shinsuke. I love AJ. I don't know if it's the constraints that WWE is placing on them or if Shinsuke is just getting worn down or maybe it's AJ getting worn down. I don't know. They've never had that one classic match that we've all been waiting for them to have. Everybody expected it at WrestleMania and it didn't happen, and it was a letdown. It didn't really happen in Saudi Arabia. It didn't happen here tonight. And I'm just frankly beginning to think that it's just not going to happen. I don't know if it's on Shinsuke Nakamura. I don't know if it's on AJ. I don't know if it's on a combination of both. I don't know if it's on WWE hamstringing them. I don't know.
I think it's on a lot on the company itself. It could be everybody's probably got a place to play in it. But the fact that at WrestleMania you had it face versus face, and they basically built that match off the fact that Shinsuke was going to turn heel at the end of it. And then at the Greatest Royal Rumble, you've got a double count-out finish, meant to prolong the feud. Nobody's going to be happy with how that ends. And then at Backlash, you've got a double count-out, or whatever the hell they call it. Neither of them can get up, so nobody cares. They keep giving them shitty finishes because they want to stretch it out to the point that it's so diluted that nobody cares about it anymore. That being said, I'm gonna fight you with your whole Seth Rollins MVP of the company this year, and I'm gonna say that AJ's nuts have taken the biggest sacrifice out of everybody. And if it wasn't for them, things would be a lot different for this company right now.
Well, this is what I was talking about when I was trying to put a little caveat on my complaining and bitching earlier. The story between AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura has not been bad. The story itself, I mean, yeah, it's heavily reliant on dick punches. Okay?
So let's be honest, it's not exactly a masterpiece of storytelling. It's just this guy keeps getting punched in the dick every week.
It's not the greatest story, but the magnetism, the personal magnetism and charisma of Shinsuke Nakamura and AJ Styles' balls, it's been entertaining, and it's. Look, it's not the best story ever, but it's been fun, okay? It's not a bad story. It's just not the best story.
I mean, at the end of the day, there's not a lot of people that can at least get a sensible chuckle out of somebody getting punched in the groin. So you get a little bit out of it.
Boom boom in his pants whenever he touches AJ in his special place.
Oh, he gets really excited about kicking and punching him in the dick, all right? It makes him happy. Maybe he doesn't like kids, and he's trying to keep the population down. I don't know, but...
I don't know either. I just know that, I've been waiting for this match to blow up and them to have the classic match. AJ Styles has been the ace of WWE really since 2016, almost from the start. He came in and, he took a couple of months to get acclimated, and then from the Roman Reigns feud on, AJ just exploded, and he's made chicken salad out of a lot of chicken shit over that period. Okay, now I don't know that I'm going to put this on AJ. Nakamura, I love Shinsuke Nakamura. I loved him in New Japan. I loved him coming into NXT. I know he hasn't been as good as people had hoped he would be in NXT or WWE. I love the heel character. I love his personality. I love his charisma. And I know he can have a good match in him. And these matches with AJ haven't been bad.
They're just marred by the finishes, honestly.
Well, they're marred by the finishes, especially the last two.
And that's a booking thing, honestly.
Well, it's a booking thing, and I think it was a case that our expectations were just too high.
That's probably fair. I think these two workers, they've had a history of great work. You expect them to get in the ring and put on magic, but this isn't New Japan. They don't get the time frame to work the matches they probably would like to work. They've got a very short amount of time, and that can kind of go into the fact that it's something I was going to mention if we talked more about Joe and Reigns, which I really don't care to, and you've already said a lot about it. But
we're going to.
Unfortunately, the thing with that is, why was your freaking world title match not your damn main event?
Ding, ding, ding.
It should have had the 20-plus minute. It should have had the time that Rollins and Miz had. That should have been a 10-minute match because it's an undercard title match. It should have had more than, say, a tag match friend would have. But why did your AJ Nakamura match not headline the show, and why was it not a longer match with a conclusive finish? It didn't even matter if, he had to win dirty. If somebody could have run in and hit AJ, I don't care, but it needed to happen.
Well, here's the interesting thing, and I don't know if you've seen this or not. AJ and Nakamura actually, according to my info here, had the longest match on the show, but it was the fact that they were surrounded by matches that were as long and matches that didn't need to be as long.
It didn't make it feel.
Yeah, it didn't feel like the longest match on the show. Joe and Roman Reigns felt like the longest match. That clocked in about 18 minutes. The opener was about 20 minutes. AJ and Nakamura went 21. Now, the finish to AJ and Nakamura was really slow the last couple of minutes because they got into the whole Dick Kick City and everything. And so that kind of drug it out a little bit more too. But your point, is valid. Number one, on the way they structured the match, they haven't really been given a chance to really showcase what they could do because it's so storyline driven, and you got to get the dick kicks in, and they're setting up for another match. These non-finishes are just BS. And the overarching point here, the WWE Championship being so freaking abused, This is the most prestigious championship in the company. Now, they don't treat it as such. They want the Universal title to be the most prestigious championship. Kiss my ass is my answer to that. The WWE Championship should be going on last. Period. Flat out. Okay? But, having said that, I understand, at least in principle, why they didn't want it to go on last. Because they were doing an inconclusive non-finish. On paper, I get that. Okay? But in practice, I would have preferred the WWE Championship go on last where it belongs and have the inconclusive finish because it's better than the shit show we actually got in the main event. Okay? And we're probably just going to skip right on to that because I have nothing of substance to add for Braun Strowman and Lashley defeating Owens and Zayn. This match, it was 8 minutes of my life I'll never get back. They had a much better match on Raw a couple of weeks ago. I don't care about this tag match. The people were just ready to go home. I was ready to quit watching. I spent most of the match surfing the internet. So, do you have anything for Strowman and Lashley against Owens and Zayn, or are we just moving right on to the main event?
I'll be honest, I have nothing for either match.
Well, that's going to lead us straight into Roman Reigns and Samoa Joe, and I've said my piece on Roman so far. You know the story by now. Match sucked complete butt. It was terrible. It was boring. The people started leaving during the match. The people that didn't leave more interested in, chanting sarcastic comments. People just did not care. And that is a dangerous point in this long-running story with Roman Reigns. At least up until the last 2 months or so. You could make the argument, yeah, Roman gets booed a lot, but he gets cheered too, and it's, a reaction, and the people are interested, and so, let's see where it goes. Okay, that's kind of been the MO on Roman the whole time. Forget the fact that WWE has lost about 40% of their audience since Roman Reigns' main event run began. Not saying it's all on Roman. It's not all his fault. Okay, WWE bears the lion's share of the responsibility there. But it is the old wrestling adage. If you're on top, you get the credit when things go right, and you get the blame when things go wrong. Well, Roman Reigns has been their quote-unquote top guy since 2015. They don't book him as such sometimes, but that's allegedly who they want to be their top babyface. And since 2014, ratings have been declining. Now, they kind of stabilized last year, and it seemed like WWE had kind of righted the ship a little bit and at least got things on the even plateau. Here over the last 2 months, since WrestleMania, these ratings have been going the wrong direction. They took a bloodbath this week. Raw and SmackDown both got creamed. And we're not just talking, the playoffs of the NBA and NHL affecting them. They would always have a small impact. But ratings generally don't take that bad a hit. This week's episode of Raw, the lowest rated in 2018. And one of the lowest rated since the Christmas season episodes last year. So, we're not just talking about apathy in the crowds during their main events. Of course, we were there in the Superdome for WrestleMania 34. We know firsthand nobody gave two shits about that match. We see it again here at Backlash. Nobody cared. And it's one thing for people to boo Roman because they don't want him in the main event. It's another thing for people to quit caring. And that is the danger that WWE faces right now. They put all their eggs in Roman Reigns' basket. And people are not caring at the same level that they used to. I've seen more than a few Roman Reigns fans who have given up the ghost and quit caring. And I count myself among those. For the longest time, I was on the Roman Reigns train. I wanted him to turn heel. I wanted them to try and do something to salvage him because I thought that he could be the top babyface one day. That died for me at WrestleMania. But I still cared about Roman and didn't want him to be put into this shitty position. I know you haven't been nearly as big on Roman as I have. I am completely off the Reigns train now, permanent. I don't care anymore. They basically did to Roman Reigns what they did to Becky Lynch. I used to be a huge Becky Lynch fan. You know, our colleague from Side Seats, Metal Matt, he's a huge Becky Lynch fan. I used to be that same level. I don't care about Becky Lynch anymore. I hope that she does good. I hope that they turn it around for her. But I'm not putting the emotional investment into Becky Lynch anymore because I know better. I know better than to put an emotional investment into Cesaro because he's never going to be the guy I wanted him to be. You know, I gave up. Roman Reigns is never going to be the guy that I wanted him to be. They screwed him up, and I gave up hope. And in Roman's case, it's even worse because, you know, Roman has had a terrible run of quality in 2018. So he's not wrestling at the same high level that he was the last couple of years. At least, you know, 2016, 2017, you know, even when Roman's storylines were crap, he was still having good matches. So you could look forward to the, you know, matches that he would have with a Braun Strowman or, you know, the Fatal 4-Way at SummerSlam last year. You know, it was like, you know, well, he's going to bring the goods when it comes to the actual matches. Well, you don't have that now. He's not even wrestling at a high level anymore. I think a lot of that is he's just plain defeated. He's worn down by this crap that he's been forced to go through. And again, it's not even on him. Yeah, he's not the most talented guy on the roster. He's not the best at any one metric. Okay, he's not the best in-ring worker. He's not the best looking guy, and he's not cutting the best promos. All right, I grant you, he's not the greatest thing in recorded history. Fine, but he was a serviceable main event talent that could wrestle at a very high level, and he could have been something special. But WWE blew it. And we're past the point now where you can salvage this tire fire of a push. I don't know what else to say. You're not only getting backlash now people are tuning out. Your ratings are going down. The social media numbers have been declining over the last 3 weeks. You know, so you see people leaving during his matches. The apathy is growing stronger. The boos are growing louder too, but that's neither here nor there. Any momentum he had last year with the Shield Reformation, dead. That's the story of Roman Reigns. He's had flashes of, you know, breaking out. He was getting better reactions after the Shield Reformation last year. He was getting good reactions in 2015 when he won the title back from Sheamus and was feuding with Vince McMahon. He's had moments where it looked like, thank God they're finally turning the corner. He can never sustain the momentum. And it's generally because WWE just screws the pooch and ruins it. I don't know of anybody that could reasonably argue that the last 2 months have been anything but an utter disaster for Roman Reigns as a character. He looks so bad coming out of WrestleMania. His promos, this anti-authority, you know, the management doesn't like me. It's not real. It's not believable. The best in the modern era are those that people can buy as being authentic. People believe that CM Punk had a chip on his shoulder because he really did have a chip on his shoulder. People believed in Bryan Danielson, okay, Daniel Bryan as an underdog because he did not fit the traditional mold that what Vince likes. That was believable. The storyline with Seth Rollins, okay, this kind of meta story that he has going about looking for personal redemption because he destroyed the Shield and he broke up, you know, the brotherhood that he enjoyed with those guys. He's trying to redeem himself. That is a story that is authentic. People can buy that. And, you know, shock of shocks, Seth is getting over. There's nothing real about Roman Reigns. Nobody in their right mind buys Roman Reigns as an underdog at anything. Nobody buys that WWE doesn't want him as their champion. And it's doubly ironic for Roman Reigns because the way they book him, you'd almost think they don't. We know they do. Otherwise, he wouldn't be getting 4 straight WrestleMania main events or pushed over into the main event of every show, whether he deserves it or not. They've somehow simultaneously managed to make him both completely toothless as a character and completely insufferable as a character. His win-loss record over the last 4 years is pretty crap for a top guy, and yet people are conditioned to believe, LOL, Roman Reigns wins. I don't know how WWE managed to screw him up this badly, but they did. And now people are not just angry, they're getting apathetic. You're apathetic towards Roman Reigns. I'm becoming apathetic. Although, quite frankly, I'm still more angry than I am apathetic, if I'm being completely honest. This is not a good way to fly. And Samoa Joe, I don't even know what the hell you do with Samoa Joe now. He looks like the world's biggest idiot. It speaks to the larger problem in WWE. This is as good a segue as any. There is nothing going on in WWE that gets me excited to watch every week. There's nothing. I'm not excited about AJ versus Nakamura. I was. They beat it out of me because I know it's just crap finishes to these matches. I wasn't particularly high on Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar going into that feud, but I thought, well, at least you could get some closure over the last 4 freaking years of Roman's story. No. Piss on that. That feud was a tire fire. I don't know what the hell they're doing with the women's division on either show. I really don't know what they're doing with the tag division. The Bludgeon Brothers have just been off in the ether over the last couple of weeks. They had a little backstage segment on SmackDown towards the end of the show, but it was very brief. They've got nothing going on. Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows have disappeared. Sanity, I don't know where the hell Sanity's at. They're not around. Over on the Raw side, the Revival have been squandered. I quit caring about them because they're nothing but enhancement talent now. The Authors of Pain have all but disappeared. I don't know what the hell they're doing. You've got flashes from people like Elias, but, I don't know what the plan is with him. I don't know. Maybe he goes up and wins the Money in the Bank. I don't know. I don't know what the end game with Elias is. I know he's got talent and he should be something special, but I have no, reservations about WWE's compunction to destroy him at some point. They destroy everybody. It's a minor miracle Ronda Rousey hasn't been destroyed yet. I just don't get it. There's nothing worth tuning in for outside of hoping to see some decent matches. That's all they've got right now. When Daniel Bryan wrestles on Tuesday nights, you can get good matches. When you get an Usos or a New Day tag match, or, Cesaro and Sheamus wrestling, yeah, the matches are good, but the stories are just garbage. Who the hell cares about the New Day right now? Nobody. Nobody cares about the Bar. No one cares about the Iconics. No one really cares about anything. There's mild interest, and that's it. This show is just a creative black hole. Everything is sucking the life out of you as a fan. When you get to the point where you're watching these shows, not because of what you're seeing, but out of some foolish, vain hope of what you could see in a perfect world, that's a big freaking problem. And that's where we're at. Now, Ryan, I'm going to ask you the same question that I've been asking other people. You sit here and you watch these shows. Tell me I'm wrong. Try to convince me, if you can, that I'm wrong here. That there is something worth watching on these shows other than the actual matches themselves. Because if there's a story going on in WWE that is actually exciting and a really good story worth tuning in to see, I'm missing it. You're going to have to help me out here because I don't know if that story exists right now.
NXT and 205 Live have been interesting.
NXT, okay, let's be very clear here. NXT, I completely separate from WWE.
Yeah, I do too.
NXT, I made this point this afternoon. Cage Side Seats, we were talking about this. NXT is the best promotion in the world for me. I've got NXT rated over even New Japan right now. Now, it's not really a fair comparison because NXT doesn't have nearly the same constraints that other promotions do. But if we're just looking pragmatically, if you force me to watch one show and one show only, I would choose NXT over New Japan right now. Okay? That's just by virtue of the talent they have, the matches they've put on. You know, arguably the two greatest takeover specials of all time happened this year. And, you know, a lot of people think New Orleans may have been the best one flat out. So I am in that camp. And maybe there's a little bias there because we were in the building for it, but it was a great freaking show. There's a lot of talent in NXT. NXT has been on fire. And I think that makes the main roster shows that much worse because you see what can happen when you use talent effectively. It's not that NXT's roster is any deeper or better than WWE's main roster. WWE's main roster has talent too, but they just don't use them right. And 205 Live, 205 Live has been a lot better over the last couple of months. Completely agree. The problem with 205 Live is the same problem they've been combating ever since the Cruiserweight title was brought back. Nobody cares. Yeah, the matches are great, and they're telling some stories now. They're kind of getting the ball moving. I love Cedric Alexander. Buddy Murphy has been a complete revelation this year. Mustafa Ali has been killing it. But at the end of the day, the cruiserweights don't matter in the grand hierarchy of WWE storytelling. And it's hard to get invested when it doesn't matter. So you look at Raw and you look at SmackDown, it's like a desert right now. There's no one single story that is getting be excited to watch. And that's what hurt the most as a fan. There should be those stories. Bayley and Sasha should be a story that makes me want to tune in and watch. Daniel Bryan and The Miz should be a story that makes me want to tune in and watch. For some reason, they're balking on both of them. Sometimes it helps to play the long game. But when you're in a complete funk creatively, there is no reason to be holding off on these two storylines. Sometimes you need to inject a little bit of life into the shows. They gain nothing by waiting to do Miz and Bryan. They gain nothing by waiting to do Sasha and Bayley. It's just a dumpster fire. It's a complete and utter dumpster fire that makes me question why I spend so much time watching their shows. And that's sorry to say, but you know what, Ryan? It's the truth. I'm slowly losing my will to care. I don't know about you. Maybe you have a different perspective.
I don't watch as much as you do. I kind of catch the highlights, and if I see something that's interesting or good, then I go and watch that specific thing. That's just the way I kind of had to be with time constraints and all that. It's a lot of stuff they got putting out every week, and very little of it's worth watching, but you got to slog through some of it to get to the good stuff. But yeah, I mean, we're also in that time of the year where things kind of slow down. You'll get a little bit of excitement getting closer to Money in the Bank, and then you kind of full bore for SummerSlam, but you're in that dead zone where there's just not a lot of effort going to be getting put into it. And that's just what's happening right now.
You know something? This is kind of a problem with WWE as a whole. You're right. There is a dead zone. Post WrestleMania, post shakeup, things kind of quiet down a lot. And that's what's happened here. It happened really quick this time, but it really went downhill. The quality has dropped precipitously since WrestleMania. It'll pick up a little bit heading into SummerSlam, and then it drops like a stone from September to December. Now, I want you to think about that for a second. Basically, what we're saying is outside of little flashes at Money in the Bank and SummerSlam, the only time of year in WWE where things really seem to matter is between January and April, between the Rumble and WrestleMania. So basically, 8 months out of the year, wrestling doesn't really matter. Anything that happens in WWE TV during that period, it really don't mean anything because the important stuff is going to happen between January and April. The problem is their run between January and April over the last few years hasn't been very stellar. WrestleMania 32 is kind of hamstrung by injuries, so they really didn't have a lot of choice in how they proceeded there. They didn't really have that problem last year. They just laid an egg. And WrestleMania 34 on paper looked really good, but there were a lot of people that weren't very thrilled with some of the builds to some of the big matches. There were people that weren't very happy with the way Charlotte and Asuka was laid out. People weren't very happy with the way Nakamura and AJ was laid out. Most people, weren't very happy with the way Brock and Roman were laid out, but there were a lot of people that didn't even want that match to begin with. So it's just, you're right. It feels like they just quit caring whenever they don't have a big show coming up. And as somebody who remembers eras where they were hitting the ball out of the park every single week, months to month, that's hard. It's hard for a longtime fan, and you were a fan during this period too, so you can speak to this. You remember what it used to be like in 2000. In the summer of 2000, that was an amazing run. From WrestleMania 2000 to SummerSlam in 2000. That was one of the best runs that WWE has ever had. There was one bad show in that run, King of the Ring 2000. That show wasn't anything special. But Backlash, one of the best shows of all time. Judgment Day that followed in May 2000, if you're just looking at pure in-ring quality, that might be the best main roster show ever. Now, I think Backlash was a more fun show. There have been shows that were more fun than it. But Judgment Day 2000 had some of the best pure in-ring wrestling ever. Fully Loaded in July was a really fun show. SummerSlam 2000 was tremendous. WWE was killing it in 2000. Don't tell me they can't book good storylines in the summer months. They absolutely can. And don't tell me they can't do it in the fall during football season either. I sat through the summer of 99, which was pretty much the inverse of 2000 in every possible way. WWE got pretty damn good in the fall of 1999. There were some new people coming in. Edge and Christian and the Hardys were kind of becoming established. The Dudley Boys were coming in. Tag rank was getting fleshed out. Triple H started clicking as a heel. There were things happening in the fall of 99. The programming was pretty damn good. Armageddon 1999 was a great show. So, it's not like WWE never does good during the winter or the summer or the fall. They have the capacity, they just choose not to. I don't know if they're burnt out or Vince is senile. I don't know. But I remember what it used to be like, and I see what it's like today. And the people that weren't around watching during that period, you don't know what you're missing. There are people that have started watching wrestling in the last 3 to 5 years that think this is the best that it will ever be. And I feel bad because they are being shafted. I have sat through a lot of bad periods. So have you. I don't think anybody here wants to relive 2002, 2003. God only knows what would happen if we had to go through a 93 again or a 95. I'm telling you right now, 2018 is shaping up to be a dumpster fire of a year. And there's not a lot of hope on the horizon that things are going to get better. And if they keep going down this path, not only is the apathy going to grow, not only are they going to continue to lose viewers, they're really going to set themselves up for a really bad run in the years to come. You know, you've got a lot of talent on this roster right now that are just wasting away because WWE doesn't know how to handle them. And I kind of do feel like we're kind of at a crossroads here. You know, you really got to work on turning this around, because if it gets much worse than it is right now, holy hell, it's going to get really bad. But it is what it is.
The only thing we can do is just wait and see where they take us.
Yep, pretty much. Now, I don't want to have the lasting impression of the show be that we're just a bunch of grumpy old assholes. So I want to close out the show with a little bit something more positive. And this was a conversation that's been going on at Cage Side Seats today, specifically with respect to the best matches of the year. I want to shake that up a little bit. You know, I want to infuse a little bit of hope into this show, because we've been really down today. And for good reason, but nonetheless. I know that you're not a huge New Japan fan. You just don't have a chance to watch a lot of it. Okay? I get you that. And we don't really have access to Ring of Honor on the regular, so I know you're not able to follow that much either. But I'm giving you the full run. Any wrestler anywhere in the world active today, I want you to pick your choice for best wrestler in 2018. You have any promotion, any company, doesn't matter if they're a main eventer, a mid-carder, does not matter.
Gargano.
You're taking Johnny Gargano.
His matches have impressed me the most.
Then we are in complete agreement. I think Johnny Gargano has become the front runner for Wrestler of the Year in 2018. And I'm not going to get into spoilers for the TakeOver card coming up in Chicago. I will say that most people expect Gargano and Ciampa to wrestle again. If you want to find the spoilers to see whether or not they actually wrestle in Chicago, you're more than welcome to. But I think that's kind of the expectation, that they're going to wrestle again. Dave Meltzer has given 2 straight 5-star matches to Gargano at TakeOver. He had a 5-star match with Andrade Cien Almas in Philadelphia, and what many people at the time considered to be the greatest NXT match in history. He followed that up with another 5-star match from Uncle Dave in New Orleans, another one of the greatest matches in the history of the promotion. If he's wrestling Ciampa again in Chicago, which seems to be the expectation, then there's no reason that match couldn't be just as good. And so you're really setting up Johnny Gargano for what could be an historic year, qualitatively speaking. I know a lot of people don't like Dave Meltzer, and they don't put much stock into his ratings, but, you know, there are a lot that do. And it is an accomplishment that is worthy of talking about. And it's not just the takeovers. You know, we're talking about his character work. He's become a true babyface, you know, a true top-level babyface in NXT. And a lot of people think he could be a top-level babyface in WWE in a perfect world. He just has the intangibles that you want for a Daniel Bryan-style star. He's one of the best in-ring performers in the world. His feud with Tommaso Ciampa is some of the best things WWE has done, full stop. Main roster or NXT. Ciampa and Gargano is a throwback to a bygone era when wrestling was much better. It's kind of funny that, the Gargano and Ciampa feud almost overshadowed the feud he had with Andrade Cien Almas. Their TV match on that episode of NXT where Gargano lost the Loser Leaves NXT match, that was a great match in and of itself, too. Now, maybe Gargano doesn't have as much exposure as a Seth Rollins does, who Seth Rollins is probably my number 2 pick right now. Kenny Omega would probably be number 3 if I was ranking them. Gargano out of the 3 between Omega and Rollins probably has the smallest body of work, but he's also got the best. So I think we both agree Johnny Gargano probably is the wrestler of the year so far. And I am really looking forward to see what they're going to do with him over the next 6 to 7 months. I would imagine he's probably a post-WrestleMania call-up next year. I can't imagine him sticking around in NXT for too awful long. But, we'll see what happens. NXT has gotten really good lately.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm looking forward to the takeover from Chicago. Much more than Money in the Bank, but we'll talk more about NXT as we get a little bit closer to the show. Any parting thoughts this week? Anything we didn't cover that you'd like to talk about here before we wrap up today?
I think covered about all of it. It's going to be a bit of a dead zone until we get closer to Money in the Bank. And take over Chicago, too, for that matter. So, yeah, there's not a whole lot to go around right now, unfortunately.
Well, I will make this promise for anyone listening. We will do our very best to infuse a little bit more optimism next week. This has been a very sour episode, but you know what? We're in sour moods. A lot of people are sour about the way things are going right now, so I guess it's apropos. That will do it for this week's episode. I want to thank you for listening. Thank you for your continued support, both for this show, for the Connoisseurs of Wrestling show. I know Taker and I both really appreciate it. We will be moving to our new time slot, Sunday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern. That will be the new live stream for the Connoisseurs of Wrestling. Got a very special episode coming up on one of my favorite all-time wrestling characters and one of the greatest of all time in a lot of people's eyes. So be sure to be there 9 p.m. this Sunday for that. We'll be back here, of course, same time next week, 4 p.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube. Ryan, thank you so much for jumping on today, buddy. I appreciate it.
Anytime that I can.
He's Ryan Sayo. I am Biff Kensington, and you've been listening to the Queen City Express. You guys have a wonderful week. We'll see you back here, same time, same channel. Later, guys.